my gosh, there's a cord in amongst my trees. What is going on? Who disturbs my slumber? Daddy needs to make a quick video before we can go to sleep. We gotta make sure we do a nice video celebrating. It's gonna be Gamma's Day on Sunday. Well, Mommy's Day on Sunday. But for me, for you, it's gonna be Gamma Day. We're gonna be celebrating with her, having a nice lunch with her soon. And Daddy wants to make a nice video for her. Not that she'll see it, but anyways, you be a good boy. You have stinky farts, but you're a good boy. Good morning, magic players and card collectors of all kinds, and happy Mother's Day! Here today, do a quick video, doing it in advance, as I usually do. I want to get this one done though today because tomorrow we are going over to celebrate Mother's Day with my mom, and I built this deck especially for her. I'm not necessarily saying that she's going to actually play with this deck in any way, shape, or form. She'll probably never learn the game. And to be perfectly honest, I don't expect that she'll actually want to keep the deck necessarily. But I have been proven wrong before. And if I am proven wrong, I will be a little sad, to be perfectly honest, because I want to play with this deck. I have definitely built one hell of a powerhouse of a deck, I believe, for her. And the reason why this deck is for her, just to be clear, is because her favorite animal is cats. So for Mother's Day, I wanted to build a cats deck. And I've been working on this for a few months, on and off. I've mentioned it several times in the comments that I was working on this. And so in her honor, I have built this deck. And I know in some ways she wouldn't like this deck, to be perfectly honest, because she really, really hates the color red. But sadly, Magic does not have the color purple in it. So I did the best I could for the commander. I decided to go with Jetmir. I know, red, icky, but I got the special art version from the Secret Lair off the internet, because I couldn't find it anywhere locally. And he sits in a nice, pretty purple chair, holding a kitty. He is a kitty. And I think she'll really like that card. I think it makes a beautiful commander for this deck. At the bottom here we have 5 Planeswalkers. I will address those at the end. Yes, at the end. But first, let's start with the lands and we'll work our way across. This is by far going to be her favorite land in the deck, probably. Hopefully the camera will stop being so damn fussy. You can see the beautiful artwork of Ajani, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be, sitting in a plains. It's the only full art land that I have that happens to have a kitty in it. We got a nice mountain, some forest. I tried to pick out as many lands that had like beautiful artwork as I could for her, because I know she would really like to see different places and scenes kind of thing. That's actually one of my favorite planes. Have a nice Evolving Wilds and a Terramorphic Expanse. Both of those have nice artwork too. So you will have noticed that I was doing a really hard campaign for the one guy at my LGS, and I appreciate everybody who contributed to that. I just wanted to say one more time thank you for everyone who supported Moses the Kitty. My mom is another reason why I am so invested in loving animals and things like that. So that's another beautiful plains. I have a hollow jungle shrine in this deck. And it's like an old school jungle shrine too. I'm not sure whether that's worth any money. Might be. I think she'll like that land too. It's got some pretty flowers. yeah, so I even, like, that's why I picked out this playmat too, because I figured this is the one she would like the most if she were to ever watch my videos. But none of my family members know that I have a YouTube channel, and I'm hoping to keep it that way for as long as humanly possible. We have a diamond pickaxe. I like this one because it's indestructible, first off, and second off, it gives me treasure tokens when the creature attacks, which means I can just have extra mana for playing more spells, which is necessary in this deck. Tormentor's Helm is a solid one, just because it deals an extra damage to the defending player if they decide to block, so regardless, something's getting through. Arcane Signet is nice. Boots of Speed. To be honest, a lot of the equipment that's in here is mainly for one reason and one reason only, and that is because I have a couple of cats in here that actually get bonuses from equipment. Campfire I thought would be a really good one for this deck. I really don't like the exiling part of Campfire, but it is a handy thing to do if the cost of Jetmir gets too high. Because Jetmir is definitely like crucial to this deck, and unfortunately I did not have an extra copy of what's that card called? I forget. In the comments you guys will let me know. It's the boots that give you haste and hexproof. I'm trying to think of what it is, but for the life of me I can't think of what it is right now. There's also the Lightning Greaves, which gives Shroud, but I don't have either of those, an extra copy of either of those right now. If I did have one, I would definitely replace Boots of Speed with it. But for now, Boots of Speed's in there as like a placeholder until I pull one of those at some point. Alright. Moving right along. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to count how many lands I had in here. I think I put a decent amount in here for a change. Actually, no, I did not. I only put in 30. That's pretty bad. Sometimes I'm pretty bad with the lands. But I think that's just because there were so many damn Planeswalkers this time. Like I say, though, she'll never actually play with this probably anyways. In all honesty. Impact Tremors is in here because there's going to be a ton of cat tokens coming into play throughout the game. So that's just nice to deal a whole bunch of damage to my opponents. Case in point, Felidar Retreat is an excellent card for putting in some cat tokens or giving +1/+1 counters to all my creatures. Determined Iteration gives me some more tokens. I do have to sacrifice one at the beginning of the end step, but still, you get a nice extra creature on the field for whatever you want to do. Lush Growth is just a solid way to get an extra tri-land onto the field by putting it onto just a simple forest or whatever. And Aid from the Cowl is just a great way to get extra creatures and other permanents onto the battlefield. There's not a whole ton of extra permanents other than creatures and planeswalkers, but there are a ton of kitties in here, which is kind of the main point of this deck. My mom will really appreciate all the artwork of the different types of cats, so I tried to get as many cats as I possibly could. So that's why you'll notice, like, even, like, this pile here of sorceries, there's, like, 3, I think. Yeah. We have Crack Open, which is just give me an extra treasure token, essentially. Like, destroying the artifact and enchantment, that's a bonus, but the treasure token's what I really wanted out of that. Rite of Renewal is great because you can target yourself twice. Well, essentially you can, like, you do the returning part, and then you can target yourself to do the shuffling part as well, which is nice. And then Hour of Reckoning is just a great way to destroy everything that isn't a token. If you do that and you use all your creatures to convoke it, then you can probably have enough mana to replay Jetmir and give all your tokens a solid boost going into combat, which is kind of what the point of that board wipe is for this deck. I could have picked a few other board wipes I have. I have a Wrath of God and a couple other things, but I thought that one was really good for this deck. Instants I have a decent amount of, because I wanted to make sure that there was enough interaction to protect the cats to a certain extent. So we've got Beaming Defiance, which gives a creature +2/+2 and hexproof. So like I say, I couldn't get Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots. Ha! I knew I'd remember it. I don't have an extra copy of Swiftfoot Boots yet. So if I get a Swiftfoot Boots or a Lightning Greaves, that's going to get replaced, is going to replace Boots of Speed. But for now, this does the job for that. I have a Heightened Reflexes, so I can put a first strike counter on something. I can regenerate a creature. I just like the old school artwork on this card, to be perfectly honest. But that's another one that I could probably easily replace if I got something better for this deck. Make a Stand. Creatures get +1/+0 and indestructible, which is great with the board wipe that I just showed you, if I have enough mana to cast both. Rootborn Defenses. Populate creatures you control gain indestructible, another one. I mean, these are all just great instants. Swords to Plowshares is a classic. I love the artwork on the classic one, too. I love those beautiful clouds. I think that's probably some of my favorite artwork in Magic, is the beautiful cloud artwork there. Parting Gust is great. You could target your own creature if you want to bring it back with a +1/+1 counter. Or you can just target someone else's creature and exile it, which is great. Wear and Tear. It's one of the few double-sided cards that I have that actually lets you, or not double-sided, but dual option cards that I have that you can actually play both parts if you want, which is great because I can destroy an artifact and an enchantment. That's just a 3 cost. Not too shabby. Heritage Reclamation is just another great card for destroying a few things, getting them off the board. And finally, White Sun Zenith. I had this in a different deck, but I decided it was clearly meant for a kitty deck. And the fact that it just gets to be reshuffled into your deck and you can keep making more and more tokens is just awesome. Alright, so moving along. The heart of this deck, and to be perfectly honest, the true commander of the deck, if I could actually make the colors work, is the Cat Collector. This is the only human in the deck other than the 4 Mirrodin Rebel that you get from playing the Wings artifact that I have in the deck that we saw earlier. What was that called again? Hex Gold Hoverwings. Hex Gold Hoverwings gives you flying, and it brings in a Rebel. So that's the only other human that comes into the deck. I originally was thinking about getting the partner that came with this in the Secret Lair, but I decided against it just because I don't want to be making dog tokens in this deck, because that would defeat the purpose of what this deck is supposed to be. My mom, like I say, loves cats. So if we were making a whole ton of dog tokens alongside the cats, I think she wouldn't like that nearly as much as she would enjoy just a straightforward cats deck. Alright, moving along. So Cat Collector is awesome because when it enters, you get to make a food. And whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, you get to create a cat. And the flavor text is just perfect for her. Why so many? Because they need a home, just like I once did. It is definitely like her in card form. If they could have made her wearing a purple dress, that would have only made it even better. Moving along, originally I was thinking about making this the commander, but I decided I wanted to include the red kitties because some of them have really cute artwork and some of them have really good effects. So, plus there's one Ajani down there that is red, and I definitely wanted to include it in the deck as well. But the fact that this thing has Eminence, which gives at the beginning of combat, this thing, if it's in the command zone, which it's never going to be, or if it's on the battlefield, I get to pick another cat, and that cat gets +3/+3 until end of turn, which is insane. And then whenever a cat I control attacks, I can pay 1 and green-white, and if I do, that cat gets trample and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So it's just basically like a master beefer of more. It just does the same thing that this guy's doing, but just on another level to a certain extent. Saber-Tooth Tiger, for example, is one card that I really wanted to include because the artwork is just beautiful. I know she's going to love that cat. Malma Veteran, we've got in here. We've got a Scrounging Bandar, which is cute. It's a cat and a monkey combined. It was right here a second ago. I love that flavor text too. Dawnwing Marshal. Kitty on a dragon, I think. Leonin Lightbringer. This is one of the... Nope, it's not one of the ones I thought it was. But it isn't. Savannah Lions. Honestly, I'm including that solely because it's a lion and the artwork is just classic, and my mom would love that artwork. That will probably be one of her favorite cards in this deck, and that's why I put it in here. Roxanne has an insane ability, so threw her in for sure. Plus, I get more mana from all the different rocks that come out of her, so that just helps me with the land problem. God's Hall Guardian. That's one of the ones that, again, I've included more so for the art than for the actual ability of the cat. I think it costs too much, to be perfectly honest myself. I probably wouldn't play it very often, but Angelic Cub is beautiful and it has a really funny ability, which I like. It gets itself +1/+1 counters each turn, and if you do the right thing. And then it can get flying if it has multiple +1/+1 counters. Territorial Scytheclaw is great because it gets +1/+1 counters whenever you play a land. Saladar Cub, you can destroy an enchantment. Another Flying Kitty. That's probably going to be another one that she's going to absolutely love. It's another one that I just included more so for the artwork than what it actually does. I mean, drawing a card is definitely useful, don't get me wrong, but Undergrowth Leopard is beautiful and deadly. Stalking Tiger, I'm not sure if this will count as a cat. I'm hoping it's been like retconned or however you call that. But if not, it's still got great artwork. Regal Caracal is insane. It gives all my other cats +1/+1 and lifelink, so I'm just going to be gaining a ton of life when they do combat. And when it enters, I get 2 cats, so bonus. Felidor Guardian, I can exile a permanent I control and then return that card to the battlefield, so basically I get to flicker something in my deck, which just means I get an extra ETB ability off of something, like for example that Regal Caracal. Rescue Leopard is awesome because whenever it gets tapped, for example when I attack, I can draw a card, and if I can discard a card, and if I do, I get to draw one. Giselle Goldmane is an insanely beefed up guy. First strike 4/4. He only costs 4 to put into play, and his ability only costs 5 to play, and he gives all my attacking creatures +X/+X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. In this deck, that's going to be insanely powerful with something that's coming up in the near future, so I'm just going to tuck that back here for when we get to that part. Cutsil Malamet Exemplar is an insanely powerful legendary creature in the first place because it prevents my opponents from being able to play things on my turn. And it's a cat, so of course I threw that in. Orsko's Sun Guide. Sunspear Shikari. This is one of the ones that if it's equipped it gets an ability. In this case it gets First Strike and Lifelink if I give it the equipment. So that's why I put like 3 or 4 equipment in here, mainly just to beef up cat like that. I think there's one more in here somewhere. Canyon Wildcat, another one that's red, and like I say, I know my mom's not going to super thrilled about red cards, but Mountain Walk is a very rare ability, and if I can beef up this cat, say with my commander's ability, it's going to be pretty solid. Arabo the First Fang, I managed to get myself a full art one, which is beautiful. Gives all my cats a boost. And whenever it or another non-token cat enters, I get to make a token cat. So bonus there. That just triggers off of this guy insanely well when we go to attack. Just another kitty that got included because it was a kitty, but I do love backup. That's a pretty solid ability. Nakato Hunt Pride is a really cool has some really cool abilities. You can pay red and tap it to make sure that a creature can't block, or you can pay green and tap it to make sure a creature has to block. But if not, it's a 5/4 with Vigilance, so I mean, it's a pretty solid card for 6. White Mane Lion, I like that it has Flash, and then it flickers something, so I can do that on my own turn to save something from being destroyed if I want. Or on opponent's turn, I mean. This is pretty cool because it has protection from blue, so it should get around some serious issues with counterspell magic decks. This is the combo that I was talking about. This combo right here is probably the insane heart of the deck, so I'm just going to put that down there for a second, and we will finish these, and then I will go over how that works. Spellspire Links definitely will be an issue for my opponents because they can't gain life. I can't either, which is why, to be honest, I'm thinking about pulling this out of this deck and putting something else in, but for now, I'm leaving it in here just in case. Just in case I need to, like, shut down somebody else's issues on the board. Prowling Felidar I like because it gets a +1/+1 counter whenever a land comes in as well. Sabertooth Mauler gets a +1/+1 counter if something died. And it untaps. This thing is great because whenever it deals combat damage to a player, I get to untap a creature or a land. This guy is solid because he gets +1, or she gets +1/+1 for a mountain and +1/+1 for a plains, which obviously in this deck I'm going to have both. Johnny's Pridemate is solid because whenever I gain life, I get to put +1/+1 counter on it. Basari's Acolyte has lifelink, and whenever it enters, I put a +1/+1 counter on 2 target creatures I control, possibly. And another creature with landfall that gets +2/+2 until end of turn whenever a land enters. Mainly it's in there because it's a 1 cost. So like I say, there's like 3 or 4 cards in there that I could potentially pull, but for now, I built it the best I could based on what I had available and what I could afford to buy. I'm sure I will develop this deck a little more unless my mom decides she wants to keep it just because she likes the pictures. So this combo, I want to go over this real quick, go through the Planeswalkers, and then get you guys out of here. Oh, I forgot to say this was Super Deck Sunday. Son of a gun. Well, this is Super Deck Sunday. Let's throw that in the middle. I'll throw it in at the end, too. Oscillate Pride is a crazy card because it has First Strike and Lifelink. It has Ascend, so it has the City's Blessing getting into play, potentially, which is great. It only costs 1, and at the beginning of my S step, if I gained life, I get to put in a kitty. Plus, if I have the City's Blessing, I get to create an extra token for each token that came into play that turn. So, now what happens is, Nactil War Pride has the ability that it must be blocked by exactly 1 creature if able, and whenever it attacks, I'm going to put X tokens into play, tapped and attacking, that are copies of it, where X is the number of creatures that the person I'm attacking it with controls. And then those tokens get removed from the game at the end of the turn. So what happens is, this guy attacks, say player B, and player B has 7 creatures. So this creature will make 7 tokens that are also tapped and attacking. This guy will see all 7 of those creatures on the board, and when I pay his ability, all those creatures will get a massive buff. Plus, the one that sees creatures coming into play will see all those creatures coming into play and make a whole bunch of extra tokens. So solid there. Which one was that again? I should have pulled him when I had the opportunity to as well. It's not that one. It's that one. Oh, that won't apply to this, though. Never mind. That's why I didn't pull it before. Okay. We're good. Keep the mummy on the top. Okay. So, as I was saying, all those tokens attack. I buff all those tokens. Most of them survive, let's say. Let's say 5 of them survive, plus the original. So, I have 5 tokens, plus this. Then this guy triggers at the end of my turn first. I create a kitty. I have enough things that I get to make copies of all the little tokens that this made. And then this one sacks all the tokens it created, but the ones that were created by this survive. So on my next turn, I have 6 copies of this to swing with. It is an insane combo. I can't believe it actually works the way I thought it does, but I checked with a couple different rules judges, and they told me it works, so... Alright, we're at the end here. I'm just going to go through the Planeswalkers. So we have Ajani Pariah. When he comes into play, he creates a kitty. Whenever one or more of my kitties die, I exile him and return him as the red and white Planeswalker, Ajani Nakatal Avenger, which gives me +1/+1 counters on each cat I control, or I can create a kitty warrior token, and when I do, if I have a red permanent other than him, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures I control to any target. So as long as I control one of these artifacts that are red, or an enchantment, or even another kitty, I get to do some massive damage. And then I can -4 him, which I can basically almost do on the second turn that I play after I played him, because I'm always going to do +1/+1 counters probably. And each opponent will be sacrificing a whole bunch of crap that they control, and only keeping a creature, an enchantment, a planeswalker, and an artifact. So, just an insane planeswalker. Let me see on top. We'll put her down here for a second. Ajani Caller of the Pride gives me +1/+1 counter on a creature. I can give a creature flying in double strike, or I can make a ton of cats based on how much my life is. So in a deck where I'm going to be gaining a ton of life constantly, as long as that one red creature isn't out, I'm going to make a ton of cats, potentially, if I can get the ultimate off on this. This guy gives all my creatures vigilance, which is insane, so all my cat tokens don't have to swing. And then I can pay 1, or I can get a +1 and gain 3 life, or I can -2 him and put a +1/+1 counter on every creature I control, and give loyalty counters to all my other planeswalkers. This Ajani gives me +1/+1 counters amongst 1, 2, or 3 creatures. He can give me a planeswalker, an aura, or a creature from my deck out of the top 4 cards, putting the rest into the bottom of my library. And his ultimate gives me 100 life. So if I can get his ultimate off, at the same turn that I get this one's ultimate off, I can get 100 cat tokens plus. And finally, I have the Sleeper Agent in here as well, which is great because I can do some +1/+1 counters, but I can also give people poison counters, which is pretty solid, if I can get the ultimate off on this one. So all in all, just an insane deck, especially with Jetmir as the commander. Once again, just to go over his ability, as long as I have 3 or more creatures, all my creatures get +1/+0 and have vigilance. As long as I have 6 or more creatures, they all have also +1/+1, +1/+0 and trample. So that makes +2/+0 trample and vigilance at that point. And if it's 9 creatures, it becomes +3/+0 vigilance, trample, and double strike. So basically, this deck just pops right off if I can keep my commander and that combo that I showed you earlier in play. And that is my Mother's Day present to my mom. I really hope she'll enjoy at least looking at this deck. I equally hope that I will get to play with this deck. But, yeah. This has been Super Deck Sunday, 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 on Mother's Day, Mother's Day, Mother's Day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like the deck profile. Give you a shot of the pug sleeping on his pug rug. Alright, much love to you all from me. Take care, and bye.